So one of the things my wife and I have been doing lately are puzzles. We've never been into puzzles, and during our 15 years together, we've maybe done 1 or 2 puzzles. But in these last 5 or 6 weeks, we've done about 5 or 6 different puzzles. And one of the things I'm learning about my puzzling strategy is that as soon as I dump all the pieces on the table, right away I start to gather all the different pieces that look like they might go together at different points on the table. And the reason I do this is because I believe that by gathering these pieces, it will improve my clarity and increase the connectivity of the puzzle. And I've been thinking, as I've been doing these puzzles, that we as humans are very similar. We were created and designed for relationship. And for those of us who call ourselves followers of Jesus, we know that when we gather together, specifically around God's scriptures, with His Spirit dwelling in us, it provides clarity and connectivity. Connectivity with God and connectivity with one another. And through the scriptures, we have clarity on how to live faithfully in the here and now. And so meeting and gathering together as followers of Jesus is wildly important. There's a verse in Hebrews 10:25 that says, "Let's not give up meeting together," because the author of Hebrews knows that gathering together is necessary in order to faithfully persevere through this life. And so God would say gathering together is hugely important. But there's another place in the New Testament that also emphasizes that the scattered church is just as important as the gathered church. And that moment comes in the book of Acts. The book of Acts is one of my favorite books in the entire Bible. It's full of action and drama and suspense. It's fast-paced. And if you're following the story of Acts all the way through, at the beginning of Acts, in chapter 2, the church is born. The Spirit comes down and fills the current followers of Jesus and brings 3,000 more into the church. And then this incredible community is formed. We're told in Acts chapter 2 that the church meets together daily. They gather continually in the temple courts, in people's homes. They're sharing meals, they're sharing resources, they're making sure that everybody's needs are met. And it's this incredible picture of connection and community, and it lasts for 6 chapters. Because once you come to chapter 8, there's this incredible persecution that sets in for the church, and they're forced to scatter. This is what we read in Acts 8, verse 1. Luke writes, "On that day, a great persecution broke out against the church in Jerusalem, and all except the apostles were scattered throughout Judea and Samaria." Now, I'm not one to believe that God caused this persecution, but it certainly seems that God uses this persecution because God's purpose for the church is to reach out into the world to spread the message of Jesus Christ to those who do not yet know it. And all of the action from Acts chapter 2 to Acts chapter 8 takes place in one city, in Jerusalem. So God needs the church to get out into the world in order for His mission and His purposes to be accomplished. So while God doesn't cause the persecution, He certainly seems to use it, because 2 verses later, in Acts 4 verse 8, we read that those who had been scattered preached the word wherever they went. Now, I don't know if you're anything like me, but I am longing for that day when we can gather together in person as a church. Fortunately, through technology, we can still gather virtually, but there's nothing like being in the same room with people. But the question that God has been putting in front of me over the last couple weeks is that perhaps, Brian, what I want to do is use this time with the church scattered to reach different people in your community and other communities who do not yet know Jesus. I'm so quick to say, I just want to get back together, but maybe God wants to use this time of scattering for a unique purpose. Now, go back to this puzzle analogy. One of the puzzles I've done in the last couple of weeks was this beautiful puzzle of a guy canoeing through the mountains. It was an amazing scene, but once I got done, there were 1 or 2 pieces missing. They weren't in the box, they weren't under the table, they just weren't there, and it was so disappointing. It was so unfulfilling. It was like, it's not quite complete. And one of the things that I've been wondering is whether or not God wants to use this time to bring other people into the church, as the church has been scattered, to reach other people in order to bring them into the church, because maybe they are those missing puzzle pieces, and God is desiring to complete his picture, to complete the beautiful landscape of the church by bringing in these new folks. And so the question that we have to ask ourselves in this season is, instead of like, hey, how do we get through this season as fast as possible? We have to ask the question, what is God wanting to do in and through me during this season to maybe reach the people who don't yet know him? And then when we gather together again in person, whenever that day is, the beauty and the completeness and the wholeness of the church will be that much more rich and vibrant, because there will be new people who are entering into our midst, who have been reached in this very unique and unusual season in life. So my question to you is, what does God want to do in you and through you in this season that maybe he wouldn't have been able to do when we were constantly focused on being gathered, but now that we're forced to be scattered, maybe we can have new eyes, a new lens, a new vantage point to see the world in a new way. Grace and peace to you. I hope this has been an encouragement to you, and hopefully you're continuing to know that God is with you and leading you step by step, moment by moment, to reach and love those who live right around you in your own neighborhood. Grace and peace to you. We'll see you again real soon.